아래 나오는 예 저게다 양알입니다. 소화되었다. 개왕오와시 다 양알입니다. 소화되었습니다. 간실에 상지지 구송 투스미인데 당한 저게 지게 심제 탐지 고의 제를 죄제 타로 띵이 대화 타바 탐지 기부고 토발라 남 제제 아니 지가 냠수 렌제디 공발에 때네 아니 지 냠렌제네 균 탐지 세바 아니 타바 탐지 기부고 토고고와 디토원자 남 냠레기 림바디 만수야 땡게지 고고래 지산 땡게지 고고에서 나달 상예디 만수야 남 냠레 림바티야 안 땡제 안 주연 대화의 팬바단 디비 치료도 아니 직균이 오슈지는 안들야 되니게 남이름바디게 땡제 아니 냐알메다 슈로시에 사지 쉬야다 소화대 도시는 삼다야다 안 되니게는 아주 개와사시베 개와디기 차상 내 샘자 탐지기 산교고보 되게 교교 쇼세드 응와게디 아주기라 운도시네 데쇼게 티슈버와.
Good afternoon. This morning we concluded looking at the 7 limbs, whereby we looked at that of supplication. We're supplicating the Buddhas to remain. Thereafter we looked at dedication. So in terms of supplication, one once again calls to mind the incredible qualities of a Buddha, qualities as expressed through their physical behavior, their speech, and their way of thinking. And recognize that all those qualities of the Buddha was acquired in dependence on extensive training over a protracted period of time. And therefore, the attainment of such a state is accessible, possible for all sentient beings. All that they require is the combination of a skilled guide, teaching them the method and guiding them in the transformation of their mind. And the beings are required to make extensive and protected efforts to transform their mind. So with the sincere wish that the Buddhas remain amongst us, teaching and guiding, we request them not to die, not to pass from this world.
That didn't matter. And
Before we continue, if there are still some questions, then please feel free to ask. Okay, then we'll continue.
Manje pulas, and Shinyan Lama Guba so Chinji Logo Lona Tada Gaba Dang, Shinyan La Guba so Chinji Malobu Lona Tamje Delado Gewada, Chinangi Baje Tamje Nyawashiwa Jinja Labdu so she Dumba Drabi Le Mado so Dabos.
So resuming in the handouts near the bottom of page 56, when the published book in the middle of page 50. Sixth, as for the final preparatory practice, with a clear visualization of the objects, offer a mandala, and with strong aspiration, make numerous requests. Please grant blessings. Now, I've just changed the vocabulary a little bit. Please grant blessings that erroneous attitudes such as disrespecting the spiritual teacher may all cease, and that the non-erroneous attitudes such as respecting the spiritual teacher may all come about with ease. I request blessings that all outer and inner obstacles may be fully pacified.
Tishikising Gabu sat up Chetin, Chasawa, Chova, Yanadu Yukune, and Sashan Cherova, or the Nichi, the Nigi Gabu said that she were Rangel Lama, that so Rangel sat up Shivita, Rang gave you Timba San Yuchim, the Rangel Lama, or Yemedo, Sechu, did by Seu Shu, was the Nigi sat up Chetin and Mandi Pugur Echere. 제가 만들 부여라다 안 놈이 군어데 안 놈이 셰바니로 심제 탐제교는 상요고바 다들이 고갑 되네게 네 대상보 밀리는 뭐죠 톱 되네게 당한 저기 지키비신이 다 제제 되네 고갑 되네라도 되네 심제 탐제교는 상요고바 토바지기 새벽에 디 도날에서 고가 토발라 아니 디 도날이야 아니 지기 기비신이 대야게 제가 시위 공백에 냠랭이 똑바지게 뉴도 개와치 대체도 아니 만데 부긴 셈백에 삼로다디 공로로 시대네게 되는 아주 말에 지혜는 나이 부여지 부여지 언제 남들 불라 미바사와 제대면데 불라 세드면데 부여지
Lama Tsongkhapa starts with sixth. As for the final preparatory practice, this takes us back then to the beginning of the chapter, where 6 preparatory practices were listed, and we've now concluded looking at the first 5. So the first was to clean or prepare your place of meditation and arrange one shrine. The second was then to arrange offerings, and then to sit in the sevenfold Vairocana position, visualize the merit fields, and then then offer the 7 limb prayer. That was the 5th or the 6th offering of the 7 limb prayer. Now one comes to offering a mandala. So here we see this 6th, as for the final preparatory practice, with a clear visualization of the objects, offer a mandala. So one here is offering this mandala with it's a physical offering, and one is doing so with the wish to accumulate virtue in order so that oneself can spiritually develop, but in order to be able to guide all sentient beings to attain their own enlightenment. So one is making this offering to generate virtue, to aid one's spiritual development, to develop the many perfect qualities that our own spiritual teacher has, and thereby to emulate him, and also to emulate him in terms of his enlightened activities to benefit beings, that through this merit we gain and our ongoing spiritual development, may we assist him in the endeavor of leading all beings to a state of lasting enlightenment.
마귀버 소 친지열로 로나타다 가바당서 지나다 대가르서 월스네 교회신이라 마귀바 계비게 마귀베 삼로 아니 차도 나야라서 바다 안디마제 아니 지게 저기 덴바침베기 덴진라서 봐 친주로로 다 되네게로 간에시베네 차사나 The
beginning of the chapter, when Lama Tsongkhapa was mentioning the 6 preparatory practices, he mentioned that the 6th one, the offering of a mandala, was also made together with supplications. So the supplication then is expressed. We have here with offer a mandala with strong aspiration, make numerous requests. So I'll just change the translation a little, just to make it match the Tibetan a little closer. Please grant blessings that erroneous attitudes such as disrespecting the spiritual teacher may all cease. Because this, I just moved the all so as to emphasize that it is starting with respecting the spiritual teacher and or disrespecting in this case, and all other obstacles, may these all come to cease.
개비신요금 똑바퀴에 냠는 제발라 바셰기 되는 게 차상식으로다로 친주로별로 친주로 되게 차상안에 가bat 어디지 가bat 진행하러 제시하다. 되네 신일로 구벼서 친지 말로별로나 탐제 될라도 개와당은 세월 제사 다 친지 말로별로 사야 라마의 연대 라마의 대비기 대바다 라마의 연대 대비 제한제 라마의 구벼기야라서 봐. 되네게다 저게 샘제 탐지교도나 산요고반 도비 치르도 냠는 제기 듬발라서 바디네게 냠는 제기 바 지게 튕기 릭 로 개위 릭 차상하나 뉴도 요보게게 아니 지게 라메게 진라로지 사티시도 로나 친지말로베 로나 타다 델라도 게와당사.
This first line of the request, we are requesting for that to create virtue, for requesting blessings so that we can gain the inspiration required in order to cease or to stop all erroneous attitudes, such as disrespecting the spiritual teacher and so forth. And then the supplication or the request continues. And again, the translation is just changed a little, and that non-erroneous attitudes, such as respecting the spiritual teacher, may all come about with ease. So not toward, but such as respecting the spiritual teacher may all come about with ease. So here, we requesting blessings or inspiration so that we successfully develop all good qualities, starting from developing the right attitude towards one's spiritual teacher and all the other good qualities thereafter.
Samlo share ngaju samlo la kare yungkure sene jina lamalya ati gyön thongwege shebali go wa gyön thong ada de gyön dine to ane de digimino sambe samlo da dinege deso lo chinju lo so lo na chinju ji dine lamalya magu be ge samlo de yungro wa dinege magu ba ge ada de lamalya 아직 텔라메게 된 노트지기도 선배게 노트 교연다야다 어단지게 어디 데딜라메 칭에든 게 신규에든 쟁알레데 샤라 케바스카 민도 선배게 소수기 라마레데 게 야 신사데 선배게 나게게 알아서 받아 근데 내게 어두시네 아직로 라바라바디니 안디 멤비게다 아직 따바지메 따신 템버트바지베 텐진 안데게 지게 소수규라 삼로된 용으로 어디네게 삼로디게 찾아다 야 라말 만데 퓨제 라말로 소아데 라미게 데디네게 미디 로데네게 릭티 찾아다 봐 마가지 메버서야길야 아니 진일라브로지 에세지 당보디 직당보디 이제 데니바디기 나야 제 라말레 구바 라말레 구베기비 구셔 라메 연대 통위게 셰바 연대 통화다 라말레 대바 라메게 나제 라메라를 최선받 베게진 전부 인생비게 라말야 게진 제바다 이제게 엔델야 이제게 구십 제바 데니게 라메게 연대 구송 투송 연대 제바라서바 차상 릭 데니게 아니 제게 기지 지비게 다메바리 가서 미다바다 아니 최탐제 도베 다자마도 랑용원이 주가 요마레 선배 동반이 도베 시라라서바다 데네 엔데가지데 진바도 추리 쇠별 냠라는 간내신 차단 델라도 개와 아니 뉴도 진일랍도 소세데 두시는 소수규라 냠링이 좀 똑바디게 고야디게 교부 개와야다 다 먹어야 이렇게서 교부 매바 차야다 디진일랍도 제사지 삼다나지 소소리 비슈에 디레도
Looking at this sentence with its two parts. The first part, please grant blessings that erroneous attitudes such as disrespecting the spiritual teacher may all cease. So here we've recognized that our training in firstly relying on the spiritual teacher is far from complete. Still being ordinary beings, we see faults in our teacher, and when those faults arise, we grasp at them, perhaps dwell on them. So this and other faults in our training, the faults that are contrary to what we saw earlier when we looked at the chapter on training in a spiritual teacher, all these erroneous attitudes, we request that we quickly overcome them, because they lead to the rise and the strengthening of afflictions such as pride, thinking that we know better than this so-called teacher and so forth. Also, we are asking for that we may overcome other erroneous attitudes, such as grasping at permanence, grasping at true existence. So in brief, with the first request, we are asking for blessings, so that we can quickly overcome all faulty attitudes. Then the second half of the request, that that non-erroneous attitudes such as respecting the spiritual teacher may all come about with ease. Here then we ask for all the good qualities that we are yet to generate, or those which have only partially been generated, that all of these be generated to the fullest level quickly. Bless me to be able to do so, or bless me to do so. So for example, in relation to the spiritual teacher, because that's the one major training that has been presented thus far, we are requesting blessings and inspiration so that we come to recognize the spiritual teacher's tremendous qualities and kindness, leading then to a generation of sincere respect and faith and devotion in one's spiritual teacher. We're also requesting blessings so that all other good qualities, such as the cultivation of the wisdom realizing emptiness, practices, attitudes such as generosity, ethical restraint, and so forth, that all of these quickly arise.
Yele dambodile maguba sede dan chi shinye la maguba sede ngusumene dina magu sok sale de dina sok sede da sok na le da nga ju nyomo be lorik chasan se da ma hoya de chasan de ya rang ji bu mai be simjian tamje gi da du sam da be na simjian tamje gi and ji ye de ni ge lo nyomo be rik chasan and 제가 친주로 세대 nyomo be lo chasan an ga ba me ba so de ga ba 직징이 라브라시에사다 다시니 루구바시도 라말리에 구비게 구바세 응어스메 다 속서 디니 디나데라 나저 계획이 냠네이 가르가르지 베네다 지신이 루구바데 대바다 잠니제다 장추 셈라도 파지르게 냠라서 바데네게 차상로나 냠네기 림바 차상 다다는 이글은 그도 녀고 쪼고 그도 녀라 기와치 일라서 세대다 donala 레고레.
So where we have, in the same line, the word disrespecting, and immediately beneath that we have the word toward, which should be such as respecting. So we see disrespecting and respecting. What this represents is disrespecting is an affliction. So therefore we are asking for inspiration, that we overcome all our afflictions, because it's these afflictions that harm us and through us harm others. So all these inner obstacles, we're asking for blessings so as to be able to eradicate them. And then in terms of respecting, this represents all virtuous minds. So we're asking for blessings so that we cultivate successfully all virtuous minds, not solely that in the context of relying on the spiritual teacher, but others such as love, compassion, the trainings in the six perfections, and so forth.
친한게 바주에 탐제 녀와시와 진예라도 소서 긴 친한게 바시서 긴 당한 중 냠렌제 되네고 곰자 냠렌 제발라 아니 긴 치긴 아니 지게 중화 추발라 소바당 아니 지게 중회 긴 아니 지게 야지 현강게 뇌발라 소바 현지 치바시 난게 바시 소소게 되네게 냠렌 제발라 남에 셈 남에도 원도 쉬어야다 되네게 와서 제사도나 친한게 긴 치긴나 난게 긴 되네게 냠렌 제발라 바시 참제네 냐와 쪼고쪼고 즉 매바 시외 진일랍도 소 괜찮게 바시 탐제 냐와 시와 진일랍도 소세 노션의 소득슈고래 세제.
Then the supplication, or I think it's request. So this concludes, and with the final sentence, I request blessings that all outer and inner obstacles may be fully pacified, and the word fully was omitted. Outer obstacles refer to anything from the material world, that these be quickly overcome. So whether it's to do with the physical body or the material world outside of us, we request blessings so that these may all be fully pacified. And the inner world refers to the inner mental world. So various inner obstructions, such as distraction, may these all be fully pacified.
게위신 제수 고미하기 디시고로와 디시디다 chi gyongsu sida gomsu siguro gomje gomnade lisiguro chi gyongsu jidane dos chene gomna jida kapti gyongsu lo sida kapti da shin disu gomnade di go shue yin siguro.
That then concludes the part of the chapter we've been looking at thus far, which is the preparation to the actual meditation session. Now, that's where we come. What to do during the actual meditation session. And that has 2 points: how to practice meditation in general and how to practice this meditation in particular.
Gewe mikpa la jidar dudu do koldo rungwar jebiki che yin las.
Lama Tsongkhapa starts with the first outline, how to practice meditation in general. Meditation on a path like the one explained below is to render the mind suitable for attending to a virtuous object just as one wishes.
Jisandan chebar juweki chebar juwa daye lam gomba ni sidida won ma jiwu jige den ma giwi shinyo gomna de hijirwa ani jiwu chumyo lam yir gomna jingda chembe lam den ma ani jig damya ba dongba ni dobyo gom sedi ma dushine she gom de gesoro jisanda denige gom sedi khala was dene gomba di gewe mikbe chila Chidara dudu de ganesh gom sem de gewe mi baji gewa chis mi je delia zechi do ganes neba ina dine ne tuya chi dandala gomgo re je chida go chidara mi bala chidara dudu do ko lo runwa so chida mi baji la mi je gewe mi baji la mi je zechi do ga chi deba ina de tuya ge chedo gomgo re je achigore.
Looking at this first sentence, meditation on a path like the one explained below. So what this is referring to is all the topics in the Lamrim, one of which has been presented already, that of how to rely on the spiritual teacher, but also all those that are to follow from the very next, being meditating on a precious human rebirth, right up to wisdom realizing emptiness. From the very first of relying on the spiritual teacher to the final topic of cultivating the wisdom realizing emptiness. Here we look at how to render the mind suitable for attending to any of those virtuous objects of meditation. So here we see this word object, understand it to mean the object of meditation or the topic that is being meditated on. So they will all be virtuous, of course. And if one is meditating on the spiritual teacher, that would be the object. That topic would be the object of one's meditation. So here it's presented how to make the mind serviceable. In other words, so that one meditates without distraction and meditates in depth on a topic.
Jigmikpa semde dagana dime ne madoje lamsa namyenge on songo chene jig manzuye da jig mine komde semnalia jig legalo cheya da soso ngwashin wa cheya da karena jig mangbu jero mangbule de jesa de denigile hadu semde mi bal data ji de dugo marwa jesa mi bal fa shor dugo shor chene namye ji shor namye kine an shanda ki shor dugo wa jesa deneza denige ma shor wa che mi ba je ji du ga je de be na ji da de do sa ga je so su ge ga ma ju gong gu yin sa na ga ma zhong a gong ni ji ge chu ji ji gong gu yin sa ga je de be na gong ne ga je de be ne de tuya mi ba sha da me je ji du ne tuya ji go go res jesa di don da la nga zo gom jap se di gong go res di don da la gong go res jesa di gom se di ni ge yo ya sam lo she ba di ni ji ne tuya ge don da la gom go go wa se gom bi ge da gom go bi gyum jan ro go ba ro ji de se da la zo shi ne ro ka mi ba ji la mi ne sem zhe ji ni be ding ye jing gom na de shi ge do shi go wa da.
The experience that we have when we engage in meditation is that our mind immediately scatters, and we often tend to spend far more time away from the object of meditation, the topic of meditation, and our mind is rather staying with the various activities that fill up our day, our relationships and friendships with others. This is where our mind tends to wander off to almost immediately. So making the mind suitable to meditate just as one wishes means to be able to abide single-pointedly on that topic, free from distraction for however long one wishes. So one can set, for example, the objective to meditate on a topic for, say, 10 minutes. And then for 10 minutes, one only reflects on that topic, when it doesn't scatter at all to anything else.
미바로 세월씩 가야 매워지 나ቶም 노라치 지두시네 직되되베네 아니 가서네 제스 가야만 그 가야 제메 되겐 니에 구요말 되네게 나톰로시 된데는 곧 르르로치 차고래 이네 미바 세우스 가야만에 지산디 되바들이야 유니부 되투고하다 유니부 되투고래 거기서 남야다 말파야다 제다 가가 막아서 가야만 니고 제니도 쿠요마데 가야 메데바제 삼가야마다 나홈노에시는 두스되셔그로와 되네 되셔베나 아니 강아시 셈메 강아시 셔메되게 강은 남도 셔야 가야 차고요 말에 되네 유니부로 지까지 되나 가마카 주조니 슈슈차스요나 되투야로지 리고로와 나 되네게 멤버체 소소 미바스 베네가서 템비 그룹시 당보 미바스 세탑 데델야 미바데 세부로 세탑제 되는 미바데 롤파 되네 대파 로들파 따되바나 아나 다되네 신의 셈파야다 다마란 직차야다 직제야다 직 미바디야데 당보 직임발라 간삼직이야 잠까 가브리엘야 미로다 가브리엘라 셈젠도다 가브리엘라 가야마 낙톰돔 차야다 두스는 용고르다디 제가 디 델레 다셈디 베지 다시 부dim고로 되는 미바들 때네 양스 다델레 전시신 된고고래 지산 시신기 미바데 셴 쟁기도 요도메다 삼다도 요와디 파 하고에는 남산 템베기 지기 미바다하라하는 내신 된제 전시신 된 다디 되네 삼다도 다 셈리아도 강아 세거로 와도 강아 맞도 장도 지기자 제가 셈리아 지 강아 제레갈 마선 멍보치고로와 제가 되네기 미벌파 내디 다 남미게 온도시네 지게파 ngazolia ganga thegoro chesandu chene gom gazam chilya pe chimi pa de mi pa de sebu shu chik wenera yobaru chi se sheba chilya lo de ka che chik na chi gom de na che chi du ne tu chi go ro da on de ne ge yon ya don da la ngazo gom se de di re se ro da don da di ro.
When one is meditating, it's quite possible that one may experience a mind that is not so distracted, a mind that's quite peaceful, and one can engage in meditation without much distraction or any mental challenges in the sense of, from the side of one's mind, difficulty in the meditation. So one will be sitting there in meditation, very peaceful, and thinking one's meditation is coming on really well. But all too often what happens at a time like that, the mind has sunk, and it's described as being in a state of darkness, in the sense that whatever it is that one's meditating on, the object, the topic, is not particularly clear. And in fact, one has lost the mindfulness of the object, hence it is not clear. So such a mind would be relaxed, but it is not the kind of mind that's referred to here as suitable. It's because that this mind has sunk in a way that's described as darkness, but darkness not in the sense of black, but darkness as in the object is indistinct, is not clear. So this is something to be aware of. This is because this is not at all of what we're aiming for. But the person meditating may think they've actually achieved something. They may think they're progressing well. but they've gone down a mistaken path. So let's just take the clear, easy to understand example of meditating on a Buddha image. What one needs to do, if that's the topic, the object, one's meditation object is an image of the Buddha, one needs to try to see it clearly. But, as we know from experience, distraction readily arises. We may think of people, or think of animals, or just this darkness, this lack of clarity may settle. And in fact, the Buddha image itself may end up changing form from that of being a Buddha to someone else. So there, we need to be relying on in order to be able to actually call to mind the Buddha image clearly, we need to utilize our mindfulness. And to ensure that we keep that clarity and do not get distracted or sink into dullness, we need the mindfulness's companion, that of vigilant introspection. These two need to be employed continuously. So this training is not easy. It takes a lot of time, in fact, some great endeavor. But through constant striving, the object of meditation, what one is cultivating, starts to become clear, and one starts to become less distracted. And eventually, one will be able to rest one's mind on that object, abide with that object, single-pointedly.
Denegi da mi pala tsechi du mi je mi pa sebu sa tapche dene ya se delias mi pa sawa chilias tsechi du chi sebu shuche ane chige tsechi du ne ge komya dela ta jan shi jin den je yang ne yang du sen pa chi lo yang ro de yang lam sa pa cha yang du shin du chin gom de ka de lu le ka nga yo de sem le ka nga chi go ro ba chi da dene je gom ga sam chi lia ane sem lia chi ka chen chi du shin 다 남면 차상가니 미바데 세부슈 저로 르 누바야 여방 아니 지금 미바데 세부 여되게 지금 되네게 가제 되되도 되투에게 누바실에도 로려 즉 되네게 지도 로려 강한 매디겐 지로려 대라마 지용아 지다 강한 매디게다 찬요가 되고 쉬운 거를 지 안디 지요 안디 gen기 르려야 강한 매바 안디게 대라 주디 다 르심 신도 자외 대화세 데네기 류심이야 데네기 신장의 대화세 레어도 데네 신의 토바레스 올 신의 토비오레스 그래서 데네기 곰전에 제지도 네 투구여반에 류심 신도 자외 대화들리기요 매 마둠나 아니 신의 토요 말레스 올다
The task of the meditator is to try and cultivate the object that they're meditating on in a way that it is clear and vivid, and that the mind abides undistractedly with that object, without losing clarity, nor without becoming distracted. This, for anyone who's tried, we know that it is difficult. Therefore, one has to continuously rely on mindfulness and vigilant introspection, using mindfulness to ensure that one is remaining on the object and the object is appearing with sufficient clarity. And as soon as either one is distracted or the clarity is lost, that introspection notices that, and then mindfulness once again brings one back to the object. This has to be done continuously, and it is a challenge. But this challenge is eventually overcome when one develops single-pointed concentration. As one progresses towards the attainment of single-pointed concentration, one finds one's mind is able to ever more easily abide on the object. And this is where the mind is becoming suitable or serviceable. And eventually, when single-pointed concentration is achieved, that is when it is now suitable to be called. The mind is suitable to be called suitable. So what marks the attainment of single-pointed concentration is when all forms of challenge to abide on the object are overcome. They do not arise. So this challenge can arise either from one's body or from one's mind. So when one attains physical and mental pliancy, this is when one knows one has attained calm abiding. So just to say, as a translator, I'm omitting one word, and this is the word you'll usually hear, and that is bliss. The bliss of physical and mental pliancy. That's a mistranslation. It should rather be the comfort or the ease of physical and mental pliancy. And what it means is, as Geshe is saying, this challenge of with vigilant introspection and mindfulness to keep returning and staying correctly on the object, that is no longer, that's no longer a challenge. One's mind is now suitable. That then, when one has this comfort or this ease in terms of one's body and mind, this is pliancy, and is the sign of having actually achieved calm abiding.
Jingwa de la yang ane rakpa tu na des chamo ra ni yung gore chesa de ne ge jingwa chamo se de ge le du shine da norya ge nyanga chimo yo re je da jingwa chamo le de da nga shine tobi sa samje da ara re sha sambe de ne ge ji no ya ge nyanga yung gore chesa da shin jingwa chamo se de ge ko mikpa di sebu shibushi segi zechidu nechi mikpa di sebu yode pa na semliya shukchimbo ngar shara me dinga chungo res, di jingwa res, di shine ma res yachi. Chesa di negi sungtuwa, chesa don nada, da di shualo roshi chungza la shesha ra. Jingwa se di yu de la yu di pa mi pa de se wu ji sha de ba ji liya sem khorong ge shuk zhou xie ra me de ge le chi mi pa le zhe ji du ne de ge ye ba che ane mi pa zhe ji du ne de ge ye ba ne ko sem khorong ge shuk ge nu ba ro shi ma so na be nga ro shuk zhou xie ra me de ge le chi yu ngi sa ro yu de le mi go re zhe ji de ne go re yu di se wu sha ya chi sha go re sha bai ne sem lia nu ba ngar me de gen shuk chi ra me de gen je de ne che sam lo chi yi li sar wa de ding yi zin di do bu chi de ding yi zin de la gom de ka bla che zhen de su jing wa re sa che de jing wa de su mi so so ra ra ge gomge 손에 gomja게 그 소수게 따도 신에 따지게 계획 신인 전에 퇴바나 또 신의 흉톤에 신의 주변에 냠내지 흉 배진하러 되네지도 소수게 셈려 gom야 되거라 시신이 바지바 주도 삼로나데 간실리유도 베다 심주 지제야 되거라 삼로데 미바세디에 임바질이야 슈크라 메딩하도 흉괴바나 어디지 진화 인사를 해서 배운 거 송고로 받아
In the long process of cultivating single-pointed concentration or calm abiding, the primary obstacles one encounters are first excitement and then laxity. So excitement is maybe better translated as agitation, and it's really the mind being moving away from the object again and again. This is what one first encounters, and then as one gains skill, then the second obstacle one encounters is that of laxity. So laxity has degrees of subtlety. So first laxity will be coarse. So the meaning of laxity is that one is abiding on the object, it's appearing clearly, you're abiding on it, you're holding it, but the mind itself is weak. It lacks energy, doesn't have strength. So with coarse laxity, it is quite easy to recognize that here's the object, and it's clear, but my mind lacks energy. This one can recognize. Later on, though, in one's training, when one has overcome coarse laxity, and now subtle laxity is arising, this is more difficult to recognize for those who have not studied and been guided well beforehand, in that subtle laxity can very easily be confused for calm abiding. The meditator may think that they have achieved calm abiding, but really they are just abiding with subtle laxity. But if the meditator has studied well beforehand, as they are engaging in the process of developing calm abiding, they'll know what to look out for. They'll have a clear understanding of what subtle laxity is and will be able to avert it. And thereby, they will be able to progress on to the attainment of actual calm abiding.
Rang jidar deba tar kewe miba rang jizam dizam dang gorim dijin dang ne dang nyam ne dang zhuo mi nian xin sa dang bo ne lang du ma song we ce shil bo sa dang bo ne lang du song we sa lang du song we ce shil bu ge jur gyun jen du zhuo sa.
Lama Tsongkhapa then continues, if you jump from object to object to sustain your interest, or you pursue a variety of virtuous objects in no particular order, nothing will come of it. And having gone from the beginning, your spiritual practice will continue to be, having gone wrong from the beginning, your spiritual practice will continue to be faulty throughout your life.
Gang Sinzin ne Mipa Jana, and Digmaresh, Chisa Mipa the Tangbo Horande, Mipa Wuchi, Mipa Chigmus, Mipa Chigra, and Yana, the Mipa Tagara, and Michiva Maja Tagara, in the Kumbu Regere. Chesada, Dire Mipa Chikche, and the San Yidu Shandaji, Mipa Shandaji, two scoop and Mipa Gang Sinzin, Mipa Carajone, Mipa Chiket, the Dushu Combina, and Jidar Mipa Zechu de Nebeludi, Letu Mares, Jidar de Batter, Gewe Mipa, Zhang Zizam, Dang Gorim, Jishin, Dang Yam Nayang, Dang Yang Dromini, said the Dang Sosorangi, Deniki, Del Mipa Telemine, made the Negi Dang, Dusel Mason, Denish Kumgi, then Session Nebachi, Chickens and some comba in there, and Devatara Sososugi, Zechu Nega, Sambachoro, Sambata Combine, Dizamda. Gorim Shin and Tangba in the combine Tata Sling Mares, Dan Yang, draw mini to the Zichu nearby the young Marella, Dagaja, and Jele, Mipati, Mipata Mara, some Dirichi communication, Mipachi combine, so to get that you de la comjet Zichu nearby things in Chitu, Chicken Sempe, some Dagaza combine, the naked Zichu nearby the young Yakale, young Mares, two Mares, Garson Mipati, Jebajab Chico was. Dine Zada, Miba Zechu nearby Telecomiala, Tintambo, Miba Chiran, Chick 10 Keche, Tahara, Miba Tahara, things in Madupado, Miba Tahara, Minocom, or Esiwa, that another.
Lama Tsongkhapa writes, if you jump from object to object to sustain your interest. So here immediately he's saying to us, do not do this. Do not jump from object to object. You need to have decided beforehand what it is you're going to meditate on, and you need to choose that topic and remain with that topic. Lama Tsongkhapa continues, or you pursue a variety of virtuous objects in no particular order. As it says there, if one meditates in a sequence, but the sequence isn't settled, one is really just jumping about from topic to topic, Lama Tsongkhapa continues, nothing will come from it. So this is the key point that is being made here, that if you want for your meditation to go successfully, you need to meditate in the way that you're advised to. And the way that you're advised to is exactly as it states here. Choose a topic and meditate on that. Do not either change your topic or jump about from topic to topic. Choose one and stay with that.
Serhibi Geshe Thubten Rabten, Dangbo Langdu Shuvesen, Jalan, Kasuri, Dinechi Gombani Patik, Kasuri, Gomshiro Techine, and Mizikoron, Jikom Jabene, Jiki, Gom di Thubten, the Yahushi, Dingizin, Jutue, Galahavore.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, and having gone wrong from the beginning, your spiritual practice will continue to be faulty throughout your life. And this is because one will have inadvertently built up a habit that is harmful to the success of one's meditation. So therefore, we write at the beginning of the text, and Lama Tsongkhapa is advising us how to meditate on each topic, and clearly how not to.
Then ma that deshi that dene Tomara said is Jezado Tomara Gangya Yu Miba Namje Jada Gorim Ngeche Dene and Jider Ngeber Jeba and Dele Shendo Midang Yembe Pemba Drakotang Jene Jider Ngeber Jeba la Nalhashi Meber Janshid Jamba the Shi is a Janshid and Dembe Jawar Chaos.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues. Therefore, you should first determine the number and order of objects to be attended to. Then you should unleash a strong resolve that does not permit the advent of thoughts that draw you away from what has been ascertained. Finally, you should sustain with mindfulness and vigilance what has been ascertained, without addition or omission.
Dangbo da Tomara Gangya Yugi, Miba Namje Janda, said Ganshele, Dangbo da Gombia de Petition that Ziji Beating is in Juya de la Sumor Denegi, Nuya de la Dambo Miba de Yahuch, Dambo Miba de Yan, Tempuche, Nebache, Mibatniche, Teneba, Gombia de the Duzul Mason, the Denege, Jang de Gine, Denege Kumgi, Sempe, Chikpat, Chik Jang Denis Kumgo, but the Hakovache. And a Gorim delay in a Dambo Digum, Niba Digum, the Nesumba Digum, so Gorim Dige, the Netin Kongores and Picata, Dambo Miba Never, Miba Tige, Damwebache, Telemigo, Miba T inside. The Neo Gomrige, Jange, Gorimina, Dambo Digum, the Niba, the Nesam Dangorsibe, Gomen Dige, Hakovache. Then Jidder Nebracheba, the Niga Hako Sevechela, Jidder Nebracheba della, Tange Mipa, Sem. Mipa Shan Mata Guinea Mata was a della Zichi to Michi, Ne Gumgi Sempege, Samnale, Pempadang, Gumgi Sempege, the Niki Pembatang or Eji Pembatang La Asa. That the thing is in trivial, that is in a thing is in Kalkishi or what.
So Lama Tsongkhapa is saying here, look at the first sentence of this section. Therefore, you should first determine the number and order of objects. So, the object of your meditation, you should decide what it is and that you are going to be meditating on. And also, if there is a sequence, you should settle on that sequence. So this needs to be clearly ascertained before one embarks on the meditation. Also, the length of time of each session.
That is what it Dambola, Corim de Gaze, Dambo, Comdicala, Tissu, New, didn't Mama, Comgore, Session what, Chisan to do Tang, the Danish Mado, Gunin Butena, then Yahweh check my said, Chisan, Jang Nun said to Sumurodis.
And here the time refers to the length of each session, because the advice is when one is starting, one should meditate for shorter sessions, only when one has, only as one is developing experience on this meditation topic, does one lengthen one's sessions. So therefore, before one starts, one should choose the object of one's meditation, the sequence, if there is a sequence, and the length of the session. And then thereafter, as the text says, one should set a strong resolve that one will remain on that topic and not allow one's mind to be drawn elsewhere.
Yeah. Or the dig that's a me beating is a Kumbala, the nation some down who says. dine 가르쳐서 공부치기지 dine 안다 무슨 공부가블라 아니 지들은 예버를 제발라사 dine 사실 매봐 전시대 대배 장화를 잡아서 전바의 시신 대제 대시 삼다도 미바디 해봐지 dine 공부를 비 삼다 dine 미바디를 제시도 미제 아니 지텔이야 아니 제시도 미네 미비가블라 시신기 셈션다 초구요구도 요구민도 초구민도 되네 봐 시신이 제바체 아니 덴베기 봐 덴제 아니 공부를 해서
Then you should unleash a strong resolve that does not permit the advent of thoughts that draw you away from what has been ascertained. So in order to be able to develop concentration on a topic, one has to make use of mindfulness and vigilant introspection, ensuring that one remains on that topic and not to be drawn away, not to be drawn even to other virtuous objects, but to remain on the topic of or the object of your meditation.
아두시네 다딩이 좀 제시도 미발라디네 고고로와 다 제곰으로 제베네 내가 지바로와 당보 고미야기 제곰 유가를 미바칼리미네 제곰 제오도 디네 미바티야 하고 와제 디네 아니 바 삼나타한게 림바티게 바 당보 디네 이바티네 삼당고서 디야 하고 와제 안 디네게 삼다이데 델야기 아니 지게 삼 지게 데데야 아니 지게 네바진 델리안 셈션도 마야와제 다하랑을 삼다제 징이 제바 삼당이 세비게 공부이 세베 삼다야다 데네 공비 장디게 당보디 곰니보디고 숨바디 공부를 해야다 데네게 하고 와제 데네 공비 갑라 안 제바데 시신 된제 안 두시네 데 미바라나 삼다제 바 직제홈제 되게 두시야 용구로 지바로 와다.
So what I've presented thus far is the process for developing single-pointed concentration. So here you should understand these lines as referring to, relating to choosing your meditation object to cultivate single-pointed concentration. That being said, the way to train in analytical meditation is also just as is presented here, where you choose your topic that you are going to meditate on. You choose the sequence of perhaps subtopics within there or subsections within there, so that this is ascertained clearly beforehand, and then one engages, it chooses the length of the session and engages in meditation with strong resolve not to allow the mind to be drawn to other topics. One is now just going to meditate on this topic with these various subsets, with these various steps or sequence within the meditation, and one is not going to be drawn elsewhere. And one fulfills this strong resolve with the use of mindfulness and introspection. So therefore, whether it's analytical or placement meditation, the way to engage in the meditation is the same.
나디 이제 나디 곰 잡자로 지단에 맞지. 다급수 배비게 당한저 기위 신인대주 곰 세디 마 무슨 곰 나디 원에 시고라 된 마다 2번 제 템바의 시신 된거 되는 공부를 해서서 템바
Sorry, he read earlier the final line, which I didn't, so I'll just read it out now quickly. Finally, you should sustain with mindfulness and vigilance what has been ascertained without addition or omission. So this is where one makes use of mindfulness and introspection, ensuring that one only meditates on the sequence of topics that one has selected and doesn't stray beyond that.
나데 개위신인데서 공방원이디 응외디 시고다 2번이스 당보르 템비 판유 마템비 예미 남삼사
Lama Tsongkhapa continues now with a new outline, how to practice this meditation in particular. So this is the second of the 2 points in what to do during the actual meditation session. And he says, First, so this is now in relation to relying on the spiritual teacher, the one topic that has been presented thus far, and therefore it's the illustration. First, contemplate the benefits of reliance and the faults of non-reliance.
Tisanda giwi shinye timbi penyu da ma timbi nimik se dinga zu kisin nyama ne giwi shin tinsu kap kang le ya jikki shu sabre karsane giwi shin timba ina ane ranyi ki lam nyamle rimba tike shinba susu gyula gewa saba ane chige tarba ta tamji kimbo ko wanto be ta nyer jowa ane chige gidina giwi shin ki ma phongba ji giwi shin ye yabu tsara tamji du du sinar 기위신 이야기 되는 판요요래 해서지 판요디 섬야다. 다 마딘비 님이라도 기위신이 마딘바 있나 소소히 냠len 간을 집에네 되네 제다 신 말에 디마신 바이나 소소히 냠len 제마신 바다 도베 냠len 줄레 끼 못고 말에 마게 바이나 안타바다 담지기비 고방 토투고 말해서 되네기 귀엔디게 되네 님믹스네 귀엔사도라 되네 레서 다 삼다이디 스니마슈바나 다르와 더디르 슈베나.
Earlier in the year, we looked at the benefits of relying on a spiritual teacher and the faults of not doing so. So in brief, some of the benefits of relying on a spiritual teacher is that one comes to gain an understanding of the various stages in which to train one's mind in order to attain enlightenment. And one comes to understand this in great detail, overcoming any doubts. Moreover, through this process of relying on a teacher, one accumulates extensive merit, and this gathering of knowledge and accumulation of merit all helps to ensure that the attainment of enlightenment draws ever nearer. Moreover, a benefit of relying well on a spiritual teacher is that through this connection, one will never be separated from spiritual teachers, life to life to life. And included in the faults of not relying on a spiritual teacher is that one doesn't really come to understand the teachings of the Buddha, the stages of training one's mind, nor how to do so effectively. So therefore, one will not be able to make progress towards the attainment of enlightenment. So that in brief is just some of the benefits of relying on a teacher and the faults of not doing so.
Gyön tobe ye ma sho wan ja nyen pigi domsim mangdo tang la si de tangbo ane lama ya gyön tabi samlo tsa de tsawa gyune kichigu me sanpege da dushine de dompege samlo de yane yangdo dushine samlo mangbo tanggo re ye.
Now Lama Tsongkhapa comes to present how to engage in this particular meditation. So we see in the next sentence, then repeatedly resolve to never permit your awareness to get caught up in conceiving the faults in the Guru. So one has now received teachings on the benefits of relying on a teacher and the faults of not doing so. One has learned the words, understood the meaning, and now one is repeatedly, again and again, reflecting from many perspectives on why one needs to rely on a teacher and therefore will not come under the influence of seeing faults in the teacher.
Dinegi gomse jelande garje orsane dine da dine lamigi yenden de yaze chujim dang lamigi da chujim yenden dinge zin chujim da dinge zin da sobe yenden rangi gang dobana samde side lamigi da chujim yenden dinge zin yenden shere yenden sosu rangi gare hago lamigi yenden gare kana yoba sosu rangi gang hago dige ba samdang kores hago samdangurese churimda tingezela sobegese so nalada jam nije chanju sem dene kare kumgo lamike yende dene de yoba sosoga gang hago wadi rangi gang topa nam samde sosoga hago wadi lamar yende dene yoba soso hago wadi pa samdang tu samdangure samdane de top samde dene sem debe number 10 ki deba maye bado kom so 제가 되니게 라미 연대되게 파삼다제 되니게 심 대비 빼 야고래 대바서 뒤로받아 라미기 되니게 연대되게 제제 삼다제 때문에 빼 야고래 선비게다 되니게 대바 대비 남바제 심디 파직 야고직 템부시 마게 봐도 도시네 야네 야도 삼당 공부를 해제 대비 남바 젠지 대바 안 마게 봐도 공 바로 공부해서
So reading the second sentence then further, then repeatedly resolve to never permit your awareness to get caught up in conceiving faults in the Guru. So thereby, this is relying on, having seen the benefits and the faults of relying or not relying on a teacher, one looks with reasoning as to why one must do so, and you make the commitment that should faults appear to one's mind, to not abide with them, but rather, and then Lama Tsongkhapa continues, and instead recall the excellent qualities like ethics and concentration that you yourself have perceived in him. So one firstly develops the determination through using your reasoning, through using your intelligence, that I want to rely on a teacher because these are all the benefits. So because I'm an ordinary deluded being, faults appear to my mind, I must not dwell on them, because that will serve as an impediment to relying on the teacher. Rather, I must immediately recall his many good qualities. And here, one should be recalling the good qualities that you yourself have perceived in him, as opposed to merely repeating what one assumes are good qualities that he has. So where you have perceived good ethics, or a good example of ethics, a concentrated demeanor, a knowledge of wisdom. So this is relating to the three high trainings, as well as other qualities such as love, compassion, and so forth. These you should keep very fresh in your mind, so that should a fault arise, immediately you have a whole library of good qualities of your teacher that you can immediately call to mind, and thereby push away these faulty perceptions of so-called faults. And Lama Tsongkhapa continues, and the next sentence I just retranslated, so I'll read it a couple of times. The sentence starting with cultivating the faith. Cultivate faith until stable faith actually arises in your mind. Cultivate faith until stable faith actually arises in your mind. So the meaning is quite clear. One goes through this analytical process repeatedly over a sustained period, and in the case of this particular topic, one does so not until faith arises, but until the faith that arises becomes stable. It doesn't falter. So this is to give an indication of how one needs to engage in this meditation in a sustained and repeated manner. Cultivate faith until stable faith actually arises in your mind.
Dene rang la pandapa. Dene rang la pandapa dang dobar gyue gejin nam masa ngar do rang ba tar samde ning thapa ne guba ma ji ba do komo side jada nyel ba di lo shan di do.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues. Then contemplate, in accordance with above quotations from the sutras, the instances of beneficial kindness that you have received and still receive, and from the depth of your heart, cultivate respect until it arises.
And the Mahomba Pandoba Gua said the Mahomba Lamia, Sosalia, Chu Sonyada, the Negi, Lam Yamlik, but think you about Pando, simply, the Negi, getting the Kipa, some Gene, Dene, and Nar Dojamba Dara said that, do you go to the Negi Panda Jana Somana, some day, Ning Tapane said that, the Negi Ralia, Pandaba getting Chimbushure, and then Lamaya, Gubaji, Yahu Guba said that, Jibari, Yahu Saji, Gubajiba. Denegi maje ba ko mure sa ralia jin chembo da gedin chembo be gedin chembo yi sanbe be ya wo shu shin sanbe da ngale ya phando gedin chembo ya wo shu shin ya sanbe denegi ngo ba maje ba do ane ji ko mure sere.
Says Lama Tsongkhapa writes, then contemplate in accordance with the above quotations. So in other words, what was presented earlier in the previous chapter on relying on the spiritual teacher. the instances of beneficial kindness. So beneficial kindness is a good translation, because one recalls all the benefits that one has and is receiving from one's teacher. And this is usually expressed as kindness, but in English, the benefit one receives as well as the kindness one receives from one's teacher. And this can be expressed through teachings, through initiations, giving of vows or transmissions, and so forth. These and other activities are how we attain benefit from this relationship of our teacher, who through his kindness and care, he cares for us through guiding us how to cultivate the Dharma within us. So through reflecting on this repeatedly, it leads to a deep respect for the qualities of the teacher and for his kindness that he shows us and the benefit he brings into our life. And continues that you have received and still received, and from the depths of your heart cultivate respect until it arises. And within this cultivation of respect, there's also the fervent aspiration that one continues to receive kindness from one's teacher in this way, through, for example, ongoing teachings and so forth.
Gewe shin di so gom na de lamrim na la ya da ngang gewe shin di so gom kuri se de gom se di da lama ya kyun do be lo se de nam ya ji ju me ya san be ge dom sim ji ge di pa dom sim ge gom dom sim ya ne ya du chin ya ne ya do ji ju du sam da ji che de ne ni ba de la la mi ge gu song tu song yuan dian de ge pa 出这面定义这样写了就原来老师吧说说给那边原来刚好过话的就出这样子呢那么了原来的那些白不了身边给他的那个这个原来的这样子那么呀대박 kom야的直接대박 kom de 가세 kom de kom de ne 아니 숨바데라 다 라미게 랑리야 최된 냠리 림바데 다딩아스 덴바이 몽바나야 덴바 규와리 딩기리 선배게 배야고이 선배 깨진 첨보다 쉬우 깨진 첨보이 선배게다 삼다제 배야고리 선배 구보kom야디 제사 구보kom야디 디 디차고르 제사 데네자 kom야디 디 kom야다 기위신 데서 kom세 디레다 kom야 응원에디
What we're seeing presented by Lama Tsongkhapa is exactly the method that we covered earlier when we looked at this chapter on how to rely on the spiritual teacher. First, one recognizes the faults of, or the harm that will follow, or the harm that will follow through not. First one develops the determination not to focus on faults in the teacher, even if they appear to your mind. To recognize that dwelling on them, holding on to them, this only serves to harm one's spiritual development. So one develops, firstly, the deep resolve not to abide with any negative views of one's teacher. And then secondly, but rather to develop a clear appreciation of his many incredible good qualities, those relating to his physical endeavors, his speech, as well as his mind, so as to engender deep faith or trust in one's teacher. And then thirdly, to recognize the tremendous benefits that he brings into your life through his kindness in teaching and guiding one, thereby to bring about a deep sense of one's good fortune. And through this feeling of closeness in one's teacher, a deep respect for him will arise. And with this, the determination to live up to the teachings that he is sharing with you, live up to them in the sense of cultivate them deep within your heart. Moving then to the next outline, what to do at the end. By means of, or just before we read, by means of the prayer of good conduct, the King of Prayers, and aspiration in 70 verses, the virtue accumulated should be dedicated with strong aspiration to the temporary and ultimate aim.
That in a game or Japan, Sambo Chibi, Molam Dunjuba, Nalango, Japan, Sumba, Nashin Gene, Molam Chetunity, or research. That's Susuki, Sumatem, but don't that the issue Shavana, Semjan Tamjek in the Geokumbi Kewati, Semjan Tamje, Sanjoko Bontobi, Guru, sure, said, and the Niki, Moajer,
This prayer of good conduct is anyway, in Tibetan, it's a more common name for what we in English call the King of Prayers. So one can recite either the King of Prayers or Aspiration in 70 verses, or if one does not, one can dedicate in the way mentioned this morning, dedicating that all sentient beings quickly attain the state of full and complete enlightenment.
That the combi to Kiti Commission Sugar, Torang, Tengajo, Chiro, Sue, Twin Shila, Combrachates, Twin Shitushin, Comoriesor.
Tsongkhapa concludes the paragraph with, you should meditate like this in 4 sessions, at dawn, in the morning, in the afternoon, and in the evening.
Then they said that they have the Combi Cablia, Tambo, Tunjina, in Jingui want to draw lashing, season tuning wood and that Jingu draw lashing. Della Gomna, Luchu Gavies, Tun Chungla, Zhang Mang or Jas, and Gom de Big Lola, Jigin Jena, Chimareja, Juing Dues, Shandona, Mal Tobigi, Tse and Ju, Lolon, Sumbata, the Rose.
Lama Tsongkhapa continues, if your sessions are long in the beginning, it is easy to fall under the power of laxity and excitement. Since it is difficult to correct the state of mind once it has become a habit, you should have many short sessions. If you cut the sessions short when there is still a desire to meditate, you will be drawn to entering meditation subsequently. Otherwise, they say, you will be overcome by nausea at seeing the sight of your meditation seat.
The Codivodo added Bene, Tambone, Unibuona, Jinguigi, Yoake, Wang to Soyaki, Lela Uyores, Chesantella Comna, said the Jinguigi, Jingui del Pau Comsovane, Gemalia Pacaya de Calahuyores, Cavies, Chesan de Damboene, Jiyun Tunuje, Zhang Dios Mawa, Comurese, Duntola Zhang Combacha was. Tunshi Gomgorua, Tunshi Torangas of Gombe Gabla, Tunshi Gombe Gabla, Torang Gombe Gabla, Junibu Comna, Tundambo de la Junibu Comna, and then Jingu on the Sonchi, Jingu on the Sonchin, the Gakawa, the Chesa Torang, Dambo, Tundambe Gabla, and Du Tunhuncum, Nivi Gabla, Tundu was Tunshi or the Tundu Gomgores. That Tunshi, the Tunshi Kishi or whatever. Tunshi Kishigora, that the Tunshi Lama Kishmar, then Arajic Tunji Gungurua, and Nuji Gomgore. The Mambo come that digital Mangosh Com Shavan, then Jingu on the Songre.
So what's written here is quite clear, but especially when it says in the beginning, so this really refers to for beginners. It's very easy to come under the influence of laxity and excitement. And once one has done so, as it says in the next sentence, it becomes, once you've developed this habit, it becomes difficult to overcome this bad habit. So therefore, it's better to start off with many short sessions.
Gom de biget, Tuntunu Gomna, Gomiagi, Deva, Dumba Yubikablia, Samshavana, in Jellianja, Gomiagi, Deva, de Tushushimuligi, Gom de Big, Trola, Jena, Jenas, Jigin Jenas, Samshavores, that Gom Lotevo Yubikabla. Dene, and Chimare young Junior Deves, and Yakomiaki, Deva, the Yakuligi, Shendo Nasan, Denig, Uniwom Sonde, Dene, and Jingo, Ganza Galehan, and Gemma de or the Comian Matoba, and the Yungres, Yulon, City, and they said on that tone, then Comian Mato, Daniel Matoba, in the Yungres.
And Lama Tsongkhapa then advises, as it clearly says in the text, that you should keep to keep your enjoyment of meditation, you should rather, especially as a beginner, keep the meditation shorter. Not be over enthusiastic, not try too hard, but keep the sessions shorter so that when it concludes, that you look forward to the next meditation session. So in this way, you keep your desire to meditate fresh within. And this will make it much easier then to shortly thereafter, once again, engage in meditation.
Tamadele, Tamadele. Igranibadela, Dene, Tomara Gangja, Miba Nam, Jangdang, Gorim, Yengeja, and Dua, Dona Karsungor Sandaki. Evishin, Dinsula, Samtaba, Comja delia, Dambo Karakom Gure, Sedu, Evishin, Dinsudela, Com Japna dela, Dambo, Jowa, Juxum Jong, Juxum Je. Jowa di Kapsukarasene. Juyu Chu Jukum, Delias, Dipa Sachang Chiada, Chesan Dineke, Juyu Chiki Nehan Chitur Cheba, Sadin Mache, and Dishi Shebana Sachang, then Dipa Shabata, Saja de Giongo, then the Manje Puhurese, this Chesan Rimba, the Hako Chihurese, down boy Juyu of Sukarchos and Juyu Chu Jukum, Juyu Chu Man, Dineke Sachang, Yala Dumbukunia Sachang Chihurese. This is how much in Digelia and the money pushes so what up such. Those the Hawache that the Joa the Drosade. That in which you come when you come back up and Gargo Resena, Jesada, when you come back down bo and give it in the pay down, might be Yemiti, some she down bo. These some that. Then you go when you tell ya and Lama Gundu, Namia Kichu me, simple Dom Simicum. Dijela, and I make it to him that thing is in Yandala over change, they let Debazici to come over it. Dijela, la make Ralia, choose be getting to get change, no good but to come over it, said, this would do come over it. That Digum Savicella, and it's you know what over it, said, somebody to come that how go watch over the edge, how I said, did that, the she shared Miba Nam get drowned down, come staring in a chance, how watch it. Then they tuned the layer down under, tune she, tune she the kind of commerce, Torang Gomore, Nado Gomore, Chiroche, Suel Gomores, the young ones down Bocomdical, Tune Tuno Gomore, said, on Dush and Hago Chazan, Denziki, Rimbati Chazan, Hago Ache. Then how goes and then Rimbadi Ma, Chick Child or that Rimbadi Sarzon, that Rimbadi League and Tava Ligro, on Dush and Gomore, said, that now what is Toma, Gang Yu, Mi Nam Yet. Mignam Mipachaya, Mipache, Kikom, then the Drangche, Gorimche, and the Gorim says down Bochu, Shuruk, then no more you come that in Rimba Gorim, then no more Wache, then Drang said Tun Dranga, the Mondusin, how go down for this Chazan, how go Wache, then the Gombo, yes, or that.
We take what we've been hearing here more recently and go back to something we covered earlier in this particular session. So in the outline, how to practice meditation in general, maybe halfway in that paragraph is a sentence, therefore you should first determine the number and order of objects to be attended to. So in the context of meditating on the spiritual teacher, the way we should understand that sentence then is that the number and objects to be attended to refers to, well, first, in my meditation, I'm going to do the preparatory practices. So these were the 6 that we've been covering for a while. So the cleaning one's meditation place, arranging one's offerings, sitting in the 7-point posture, going for refuge and generating bodhicitta, visualizing the merit field, the 7-limb prayer, and then the mandala. So this should be learnt, and not just merely memorize the sequence, but with a good understanding of how to do the practice. That should be done beforehand. So when one is determining the number of and order of objects, the first then is the 6 preparatory practices, what they are and how to do them. So you have that down. Then I'm going to go into the actual meditation session itself, which means I'm going to recall the benefits of relying on the spiritual teacher and the faults of not relying on a spiritual teacher. So that's what we covered earlier, and there one will have learned those benefits and faults, and therefore one will be able to call those to mind. And then one knows that the determination thereafter is that I must ensure I don't criticize my teacher. If faults arise, I'd rather immediately turn my mind to his many good qualities. And then when one does the meditation, one practices that. Thereafter in the meditation, one reminds oneself of the teacher's many good qualities in terms of his physical behavior, speech, and inner qualities, those in his mind, and recalls those so as to generate deep faith in one's teacher, then abides with single-pointed concentration on this faith in one's teacher. And thereafter, one recalls the great kindness of one's teacher, the benefit he brings into one's life through his teachings and so forth, so as to engender deep and sincere respect for one's teacher. And when that respect arises deeply within one, one abides on that too. And thereafter, I'm going to dedicate. So here, one has set out how one is going to do the meditation, and one has already gathered the knowledge beforehand how to do the meditation. Then, when one engages in the meditation, one will also determine the length of each session. So there are 4 general sessions over the day, but one may within each session have smaller parts. And so one may determine each meditation session, where I cover the 6 preparations, as well as the actual body and then the dedication, will be X number of minutes. And there'll be so many meditation sessions in each of the 4 sessions in the day. So in this way, one plans how to engage in the meditation and then does precisely that. So this then is the meaning of the sentence in the context of meditating on relying on the spiritual teacher. Therefore, you should first determine the number and order of objects to be attended to.
Da inza denige kom zo di da gewi shin ka sa gyendo lo den ji ki chu me sembe dom sem kom Lamrim yu kusong tu yu yenden deba kom denige da Lamrim rang ya panda pe ke gedin jen ji gubo kom ya de ko kom ya zo di re da di kom ngoi shi kom di ro wa jina da di kom ya de la denige deba ya ko ke ya dang an gu sha gu ba ya ko ke ge de so so gi da me cham je dunra ji kom be na dawa ji kom be na dawa shi nga ju denige gu sha deba 그 대바다 그바디하고 맞게 봐도 두시네 다 참제네 두시네다 그 무디셰 다 공부해서 와다 튼시제도 고며도 아메 다와 직스 고며다 다와 니숨 다와 주스 고며 되네게 다 소소라는 게 니발 바베게다 도와다 다와 신이숨 나려야 되네게 되고 약보시게 tum나 되는 마 디차네는 치마 기부 충분함 일이 보고며 자루와 안디엔 두시네와 다 되네게 아직 다와 니숨 날래 야보기 마도나 되네 다와 시가 죽까지 곰 죽고 뭐 되네 마기에 봐도 두시는 공부 오래서 그러다.
The actual meditation in the context of the topic of relying on a spiritual teacher is as was presented here, recalling the benefits of relying on the faults of not doing so, recalling the many qualities of the teacher so as to engender faith, and recalling his kindness so as to engender respect. So knowing the main body of the topic as well as the preparations and the conclusion, the dedication, then one determines the number of sessions and their duration, and then the duration of one's retreat, whether one's doing retreat for a day or a week or a month or several months. One determines that session, that duration, and then one is ready to embark on engaging in the meditation repeatedly over this predetermined sustained period in the manner that you have developed. And sorry, with the understanding then of also the other stages that will come thereafter, that when one reaches the point of realization of that topic, knowing that thereafter one moves into the trainings of a practitioner of initial capacity.
지단에가 저기 남균에다 되게디네 디스틱 두스네 게비신일 로도 계주메 견도로 계주메 선배다 게비신 데베체 데바 가서 연대데 데바자당 그딘체스 전에 그버겸게데 그디나다 공공과 이 말와 지단의 공구고요래 그 게비시에 곰나지 바래 다데댕을 셔야돼 람림 냠는 지교에서도 기부 기비신인 된스마 기부 치면은 참되셔 로 망구를 야두시네 곰자저로 받아 제 똑바마 기부도 기부 기비신인 곰데 기비신이라 대비게 단 그비 똑바마 기부도 곰 되네 기부 중요한 일은 봐 냠는 일은 봐 똑바마 기부도 곰 되네 기에서는 기부 징계람 일은 봐 똑바마 기부 곰 되네 기부 치면은 제 두시는 곰제 두 곰자저로 어디 저기 두스 디림바데 송거지단 두스네 곰자데 림바데라야 지 튼시체네 곰고레 세지 디스공거레 내가 이제 집에 가시 미용네 나 람림 냠림 지긴시네 때 타과침 배우치 아니 산지고반 냠곰 잡기 냠는 지긴시도 냠는 지긴디게다 두신 림바신 로고를 와 땅보 기부 참되시네 가고 심부질 바지 참지되 참강 야고체 진행이 내가 지도를 제바세야 구수 되게 된데 저희 추루도 두신에 된되시네 아니 님이 딱와 공고를 와다 아니 검사는 계획 신인이 되니게 대바당 구바데 야고 계속은 되는 기부 중요한 일인 걸 봐고 네 야고 전에 기부 딩게람지 투모람 일을 봐고 되는 거면 되는 자주심 잠니죠 자주심 되는 바지 중에 냠는진 되는 산요 공원도 토가데 토고로 와다 두신 냠는 로와 지단 디 검잡제도 스토다 당한 주데 롭종을 하지 넘는데 이 쇼를 때서 시에마데 무지니 검잡마데 되네 두스날 하드에는 또 와게마데 지차거로 와 지다디 베네타름사디 와도 리갈이야 되게 즉 람림 두스냠네 디스 콘도 두스고 난고다 가제 엔디멘베게 되면 나지 본바나라 소소이네다 자 야 상위 민원비천에 두시는 공자 용고로 와다
Always following the presentation as presented here, meditators approach meditation on Lamrim in differing ways. So those who are able to devote an extensive or really an unlimited period of time to meditating on the Lamrim, for example, those in the mountains above Dharamsala or those in monasteries and nunneries, who set for themselves the goal of attaining enlightenment and therefore will meditate on each topic in the way exactly as presented here, and they'll remain on one topic until they gain realization of it, and they'll then move on to the next. And they'll do so with an open-ended schedule, so that they will determine the number of sessions each day and what will be done in the session, as mentioned here, with the preparation, the main body, and the conclusion. But they will have no firm date of an end to their retreat. And they will continue on each topic until they gain realization, slowly progressing through the varying stages of the path. For ourselves, those who are involved in education, we are more encouraged to meditate on the topics as they are being taught. So if they are being taught quickly, then one needs to move through the topics relatively quickly. And if the topic is being covered more slowly, then one has the opportunity to repeatedly meditate on the same topic so that one can thereby get greater habituation to each topic as one progresses. So there are these different ways of approaching meditating on the Lamrim. If one is in long-term limitless retreat or a retreat without an end, or if one is meditating whilst engaging in education. So there are those two approaches, but both of them follow the same structure as presented here.
내 자신에 대한 시세에 한 주기 위신인데 조금 나되게 도스네 데이터를 찾아서야 돼. 뭐시디? Oh, di badure. Oh, yeah.
Good, that's our time up for now. Thank you very much. And then I guess we'll see you in a few weeks' time. And for those who have questions, feel free to ask. If you can't stay for questions, it's fine to go. Peter.
Thank you. If one wanted to begin this practice now with the first topic, reliance on the teacher, you just suggested that if we're in learning, that we do it at the time while that's being taught. So if we were to begin, if one were to begin doing that now, would we continue that until we get to the secular text stages shared with person of lesser capacity? Yeah?
You mean the very next chapter, the freedom and the endowments of this life?
Well,
chapter 6.
I'm not sure what's after practicing, meditating on reliance on the spiritual teacher.
Yeah.
Is the next subject rebirth? What is the next?
Page 50, what's it? 58, 59. Precious human rebirth. That's the next topic. So yes, your question is, do we stay meditating on the spiritual teacher until one comes to the topic of the freedoms and endowments of this life?
Yeah.
Yeah?
When we move on.
Okay.
Lamrim nyamne ke kono ko mdende tambo deni ke tambo di ko ngore. Dirwada. Temi chimin le ma chu tuen chawada da ju de suma sam da rwada.
So precisely that. So from now, one meditates on the spiritual teacher, and then when it's a month, we come to the freedoms and endowments, then one starts meditating on the new topic. And when that's concluded, then I think it's the impermanence of this life, then one leaves meditating on the precious human rebirth and moves on to death and impermanence.
One more quick question.
Sure.
If we're doing this over a day or a week, is it suggested to cover all the topics in how to practice this meditation in particular in one day? So from contemplating the benefits of reliance through recalling the qualities, the instances of beneficial kindness and dedicating, to do all of them in one day?
To do all of them in each meditation session.
No, in one day.
So over several meditation sessions.
Yeah. All spread out over a week or after.
Depending the Jewish children, 내가 조사 집사 세디 고님이질레디 조회체로와 당보 지되에도 조사 되게 만들어 차상 부사로와 네 부사로와 되는 튼당보시로와 다 튼이베들레에도 되네 다 내가 지도 제바디 고야요 말하다 되로와 다니 조사 집사 양라 듬비게디 소소게 된 후네 제투네 야고로와 이게시 다 뒤주 마당바 소지네 아직 디마제베체 만데 부이제 된마 안두시네 지만데 양라 듬바데라 고직 망고 돌디마 차자와다 추진 샤바데 지서 뒤섬다디 양라 듬비 쳐바지 삼다제디 고 제샤나 디고로와다 제자디 디디 곰제 조디 디르바치다 튠리 대바 곰야 직체 로나 진주로 볼로 끼죽메 선배 돔셈 komya chikche deba yende de deba chaya chikche ane jiku gedin de guba komya zo di da tunre di gom go da de.
The primary topics of meditation are what are in each session, are what we have here as how to practice this meditation in particular. So if you're meditating on relying on the spiritual teacher, in each session, then one meditates on the benefits of relying, the faults of not relying, the qualities of the teacher, the kindness of the teacher, and so forth. That's all of those in every session. In terms of the preparations, or the preparations, there one can do, some of them certainly one will only do in the first session. For example, preparing your room. You don't need to do that all the time. Preparing your shrine. You can do that just in the first session. You don't need to do more, making offerings and so forth. If you wish, you can do the 7 limbs and the mandala also just in the first session, or you can do it more extensively in the first session and more briefly in the subsequent sessions, if you wish. So in terms of the preparations, there you can do more in the first and less or none in the latter as you wish. Or maybe not none, there's refuge and bodhicitta. But that, with the preparations, you can be flexible. But the main endeavor in the meditation is the how to practice this meditation in particular. Okay.
내한 지도를 제바다 구송투기 된 담바 안에 저바 예매바 샴바 된 샤바데 사사르와다 단 대발로 두바디 가서 되고로와다 다디네 나 군노죄디 점르셈바다 장주심 군노죄디 군노죄 고로데 군노죄디 되는마 다 차상고하래 군노죄 되네 안에 양라준비고네 안에 가소래 사사데제 사사제 되네 안에 다디디 가서 초신 사답이야디 초신의 사답되니 아니 야라dimiko네 아니 지가 사자제 안디네 제세비체라 아니 가르스미니다디디 가소레다 규치가소레 기위신 템페 파여다 마딘비 니미디 되sam다 디네 아니 마제 라말리아 견도고 로나미아 기죽메 셈베 톰셈콤 디네 라미게 아니 그 구스두교에 대제 대바콤 디네 라레 라메 쳬디메 게딘 제스테네 응구보콤 디콤야데 다두시콤 디네 모아잡 디단 튠리에 차상을 직박거다 등한솔야디.
So to be very clear then in the answer, of the preparations, there are some which you'll only do in the first, but that is cleaning your room and setting up the shrine. That you'll just do in the first session. The third is sitting down, so this you have to do in every session, and this is followed by refuge and bodhicitta. Of course you do that in each session. The visualization, again, this word visualization, we can rather more understand for us as being imagining the merit field to be there. So imagine the merit field, that's sufficient. Then 7 limbs and mandala, that do each session. So the bit from sitting, because you have to, and then everything following that, you do in each session. You can, if you wish, do more extensively in the first, or extensively in all, as you wish. But then you come to the main body, and the main body of the meditation stays the same in each session. And this is where the bulk of the time of each session is included. It's spent, rather. And then dedicating each session.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much.